Over the last few years, the public perception of technology companies has shifted quite dramatically. Large tech firms such as Google, Facebook and Amazon are no longer the darlings of the world. They are attracting the same kind of ire that financiers attracted a decade ago. At the political level, this translates into a broad bipartisan support for regulating the sector, due to the opinion that the most powerful technology companies are monopolies that stifle competition. There are also concerns that they have too much control over the creation and dissemination of news. On both of these counts, regulation will be complicated. Imposing a stricter framework of rules on tech companies is far from straightforward, as the most successful businesses tend to benefit from advantages that come from scale. As a social network like Facebook grows in size, it is able to use data to offer better services, which in turn attracts even more customers. Given the essential role that scale plays in many tech firms, it is not clear that the kind of antitrust action that we saw in the US more than 100 years ago is relevant to today's economy. We know how to break up a rail company or an oil business into smaller components, but tackling the monopolistic power of a technology company would likely require a different approach, since a simple deconstruction would likely take away many of the elements that make it a successful company in the first place. It is also hard to see how the modern conception of pernicious monopolies applies to companies like Facebook and Google. In the 1970s, antitrust regulation was reformulated in terms that focused on consumer welfare. A monopoly was considered pernicious if it negatively impacts the price available to the consumer. When we apply this metric to Amazon, for example, we find that its ability to offer low prices is actively a plus to the consumer, despite its dominance of the e-commerce market. And then there are companies that provide services that are nominally free to users, such as Facebook. Even if you take into account the data that they farm from their users, it is hard to say that the consumer is not getting a good deal. Advertising revenues at Facebook are 43 cents a day per user, which results in a profit of 9 cents in the US and 3 cents in Europe. Does a user get 3 cents worth of utility from the platform? Research from 2012 also suggested that free digital services increase the consumer surplus in the US alone by over $100 billion per year, which is equivalent to $300 per capita. So it appears that the new interpretation of monopolistic also does not fit technology. Moving on to the issue of fake news being spread on tech platforms, we find an equally complicated situation. One of the main complaints here is that social media algorithms ensure that people only see news they agree with. This not only leads to a For more on this story, visit the news article link.